brand new book, a real authority on the subject of what is known as stealth jihad. Dr. Robert Spencer, just happens we have a copy here, hot off the presses. We're delighted to have you with us, Robert, and I turn the microphone over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, first of all, it's noteworthy that one of the leading proponents of Sharia finance and of the spread of Sharia norms in Iraq, in the framing of the Iraqi constitution, as well as the spread of the idea of the acceptability of Sharia in the West, is Noah Feldman, who wrote a very lengthy apologia for Sharia in the New York Times Magazine some time ago, which has been extensively reprinted around the world. And it's one of the most striking things about it is that in all of this very lengthy piece in defense of Sharia and actually recommending Sharia, Noah Feldman actually never mentions how Sharia treats women or non-Muslims. And that is getting to the heart of what is problematic about it, and indeed seditious about it in many ways. The accommodation to the norms of Islamic law that goes under the name of Sharia cannot be separated from the accommodation of Islamic law in general. Sharia financial provisions are not in any sense within Islam juridically or in any other sense separate from or separable from the larger aggregate of Islamic laws. And according to authoritative Islamic jurisprudence, the entirety of the provisions of Sharia that have been dictated by the Islamic holy book, the Quran, and Islamic tradition, the Sunnah, and agreed upon by the scholars of all the principal schools of Islamic law, are all considered the laws of God himself, are not negotiable, are not subject to compromise or to mitigation. Therefore, in accepting the principle that Islamic law must be the subject of special accommodation in the financial sector, the Treasury Department has set a precedent that will allow for the assertion and the acceptance of the principle that Islamic law must be the subject of special accommodation in other sectors of American society as well. This is an extremely dangerous precedent to set for a large number of reasons. In its classic and authoritative formulations that have never been seriously challenged by modernist reforms and are extremely unlikely to be so challenged, given the nature of their authority within Islamic theology and law, Sharia is at variance with numerous core principles of American society, including the principles of freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, and the equality of rights of all people before the law. Sharia institutionalizes discrimination against women and non-Muslims. It denies the right of the human person to make the choice to adhere to what he has come to believe in good conscience is the truth. It muzzles its own critics and the critics of the Islamic religion, and even forbids dispassionate analysis of how Islamic texts and teachings are being used by Islamic jihadists to justify violence and Islamic supremacism, and to gain recruits for violent and supremacist Islamic groups. In the words of Maulana Maududi, who is a 20th century Sharia activist and writer, whose writings remain internationally influential among Muslims today and are easily obtained in American Muslim bookstores, Islam wishes to destroy all states and governments anywhere on the face of the earth which are opposed to the ideology and program of Islam, regardless of the country or the nation which rules it. The purpose of Islam is to set up a state on the basis of its own ideology and program, regardless of which nation assumes the role of the standard bearer of Islam or the rule of which nation is undermined in the process of the establishment of an ideological Islamic state. Islam does not intend to confine this revolution to a single state or a few countries. The aim of Islam is to bring about the universal revolution. And it must be understood that when Maududi speaks of such a revolution, he is speaking of something that strikes directly and explicitly and unapologetically against secular government or the idea of government in which there is non-establishment of a religion. He wrote in his commentary on the Quran, on chapter 9, verse 29, which recommends that Muslims must make war even against Jews and Christians and subjugate them under the rule of Islamic law, he wrote that non-Muslims have absolutely no right to wield the reins of power in any part of God's earth. And if they do, the believers are under the obligation to dislodge them from that power by any means possible. This revolution has also come to the United States and is advancing here. The International Muslim Brotherhood movement, in its own words, is dedicated in this country to eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers so that it is eliminated and Allah's religion is made victorious over all other religions. That is a quotation from an explanatory memorandum on the general strategic goal for the Brotherhood in North America, which was an internal Brotherhood document in 1991, a presentation by Muslim Brotherhood operative Muhammad Akram. It was released last year by federal prosecutors during the first Holy Land Foundation trial. That same memorandum notably lists numerous Islamic groups that are still active in America today and are widely reputed to be moderate Muslim groups as partners in this effort to, in their own words, destroy Western civilization. The listing includes some of the principal advocates and supporters of Sharia finance. Ultimately, the objective here was articulated by Ihsan Bagbi, who is the University of Kentucky professor of Islamic studies, who declared some years ago that ultimately we, that is Muslims, can never be full citizens of this country because there is no way we can be fully committed to the institutions and ideologies of this country. This is the attitude that is only fostered and helped to grow by accommodation to Sharia finance and accommodation to other Sharia norms. The assumption that Islamic law is superior to American law and must one day supplant it. The Treasury Department, in holding this seminar on Sharia finance while avoiding the hard questions about Sharia's larger agenda and program, is only providing support for this kind of assumption. Americans both Muslim and non-Muslim, deserve better. Muslims who are grateful to be in the United States because it has allowed them to escape from the barbarous and draconian provisions of classic Sharia law deserve better. Americans, Muslim and non-Muslim, who saw our nation brutally and gratuitously attacked on September 11, 2001, by adherents of the idea that Islamic law must be imposed over the entire world, they deserve better. Women deserve better. All free people deserve better. The Treasury Department should cancel this session or at least open it up to a larger investigation of what Sharia is and what it means and what Sharia advocates intend to do. And also, above all, work to curb the spread of Sharia finance in our nation's financial institutions. Thank you.